Hello and good evening to everyone who is joining the opening of the exhibition Designers in Residence tonight. My name is Almut Benkert and I'm responsible for the creative industries and the Creative Center Emma in Pforzheim. We have a lot of guests looking in tonight from all around the world, especially from Portugal, Brazil, Israel, Russia, and New York. I will make a short greeting in German that will be translated in the chat, and then I will hand over to Stefan Lippert before the scholarship holders will present their work. Liebe Gäste, guten Abend und Hallo an alle, die heute per Zoom und vor Ort dabei sind. Liebe Frau Bürgermeisterin Schüssler, lieber Johann Stockhammer, lieber Herr Reitz, liebe Sponsoren und Förderer, liebe Kooperationspartner und Jurymitglieder, lieber Stefan Lippert, dear Caio, Marina and Naama, hello to New York. Fangen wir nochmal an. Ich begrüße Sie sehr herzlich zu der digitalen und analogen Eröffnung der Ausstellung Designers in Residence. Ich werde jetzt in deutscher Sprache beginnen, aber später wechseln wir ins Englische, da auch viele internationale Zuhörerinnen dabei sind. Ich bitte um Ihr Verständnis. Die Jurymitglieder Stefan Lippert, Amélie Gredul und Sam Todong haben dieses Jahr unter 270 Bewerbungen 3 Nachwuchsdesignerinnen ausgewählt. Naama Levit, gebürtige Israelin, wohnhaft in New York. Sie studierte Schmuckdesign an der Bezalel Academy of Art and Design in Jerusalem und absolvierte den Master in Metallkunst an der Cranbrook Academy of Art in Michigan, USA. Ihre Arbeiten wurden bereits mehrfach ausgezeichnet und in Museen und Galerien ausgestellt. Caio Mahin, in Brasilien geboren und aufgewachsen, lebt und arbeitet in seiner Wahlheimat Lissabon. Er studierte Design in Brasilien und den USA. Und die Modedesignerin Marina Aleksashina aus Moskau, Russland. Sie studierte akademisches Zeichnen und Malerei und anschließend Modedesign and Art Direction an der Art and Design School in Moskau. Das Stipendienprogramm Designer in Residence findet nun bereits zum 6. Mal statt. Aber es war tatsächlich noch nie so schwierig, das Stipendium zu realisieren wie in diesem Jahr. Bereits letztes Jahr traf uns die Pandemie mit voller Wucht und wir mussten das Stipendium um ein paar Monate verschieben. Aber dieses Jahr haben wir tatsächlich phasenweise gezweifelt, ob das Stipendium stattfinden kann. Alle internationalen Stipendien wurden in Deutschland reihenweise abgesagt bzw. verschoben. Aus dem einfachen Grund: Es ist fast unmöglich, in Pandemiezeiten als Kreativschaffende zu reisen. Kurzaufenthalte von Künstlerinnen, Designerinnen, Pressevertreterinnen aus Drittstaaten waren, zumindest im Frühjahr, laut Verordnung der Bundespolizei grundsätzlich untersagt. Natürlich stellt sich für uns als Vertreterin der Kreativwirtschaft die Frage, welchen Stellenwert hat die Berufsgruppe der Kreativschaffenden in unserer Gesellschaft? Warum ist das Reisen für Künstlerinnen und Designerinnen weniger relevant als für Mitarbeiterinnen von Wirtschaftsunternehmen oder für Sportlerinnen? Hierüber möchten wir heute Abend aber nicht diskutieren. Wir sind glücklich, dass wir die vielen Hindernisse überwinden konnten und das Stipendienprogramm realisiert werden konnte. Marina Aleksashina hat nach gefühlt 500 Mails und der Unterstützung von C. Hafner, dem Büro von Herrn Kriechbaum und Oberbürgermeister Boch den 2. Visumsantrag bewilligt bekommen, musste in Moskau starten, konnte aber Ende April einreisen. Caio Mahin konnte Anfang April kurzfristig nach Aufhebung des Einreisestopps aus Portugal anreisen, da Portugal nicht mehr zum Hochrisikogebiet erklärt wurde. Nur bei Naama Levit mussten wir eine Alternative finden. Sie konnte nicht nach Pforzheim kommen, da die Rückreisebedingungen für Visainhaber noch unter der Trump-Regierung verschärft wurden. Sie absolvierte ihr Stipendium in New York und konnte kurzfristig ein Studio bei Brooklyn Metalworks bekommen. Das Stipendium war diesmal geprägt von Quarantänezeiten, Zoom-Gesprächen, WhatsApp-Gruppen mit Essensbildern und wochenlangen Lockdowns. Es gab sehr viele Einschränkungen, aber die Hindernisse haben auch wieder neue Wege geöffnet. Und wir haben einmal mehr gesehen, dass Flexibilität zu einer der größten Stärken der Kreativschaffenden gehört. Das große Engagement und die Bemühungen der Designerinnen, alles zu ermöglichen, um das Stipendium in diesem Jahr anzutreten, hat uns berührt und uns sehr deutlich gezeigt, wie wichtig es ist, trotz der Pandemie unter veränderten Rahmenbedingungen weiterzumachen, kreative Arbeit zu ermöglichen und der Öffentlichkeit auch zugänglich zu machen. Die Projekte, die in dieser Zeit entstanden sind, sind ab heute bis zum 18. Juli im Emma zu sehen. Endlich auch wieder analog. Für ihre Arbeit Matter to Das beobachtet, dokumentiert und sammelt Naama Levit Momente, Muster und Fundstücke in den Straßen von New York. In einem Akt der Verschiebung werden die Teile und Materialien zerlegt und in Beziehung zu anderen Materialien, wie zum Beispiel Sand aus ihrer Heimat in Israel, wieder zusammengesetzt. Trotz der räumlichen Entfernung entstand in der Ausstellung in Pforzheim eine Art Zwischenort. Ihre Objekte liegen in einem Sandkasten, der für Naama Levit sinnbildlich für einen Schwebezustand, für Räume, die ständig in Bewegung sind, steht. Auf einer New Yorker Dachterrasse entstand zudem eine Performance, die wir Ihnen gleich im Anschluss zeigen werden und die nächste Woche auch noch einmal live in New York zu sehen sein wird. Die Besucherinnen von Marina Aleksashinas Arbeit Playground Hazard betreten eine scheinbar heile Welt, einen Kinderspielplatz. Die Objekte darauf erinnern an Plüschtiere, das erste Spielzeug, durch das ein Kind die Welt und ihre Regeln kennenlernt. Marina Aleksashina erforscht mit ihrer Arbeit die Suche nach der eigenen Identität inmitten von sozialem Druck und Rollenstereotypen, mit denen Kindern bereits von Beginn an konfrontiert werden. Das Projekt von Caio erzählt eine sehr persönliche Geschichte. Seine Arbeiten beschäftigen sich mit seiner Kindheit in Brasilien, wo er als queeres Kind, das sich für Schmuck, Puppenhäuser und Barbies begeisterte, mit Ablehnung und Vorurteilen auch innerhalb der Familie konfrontiert war. Während seines Stipendiums setzte er sich intensiv mit Märchen, insbesondere deutschen Volksmärchen, auseinander. In seiner Arbeit versucht er, bestehende Narrative und Rollenbilder zu hinterfragen, zu verdrehen und zu überwinden. Bevor ich jetzt das Wort an Stefan Lippert weitergebe, möchte ich folgenden Personen und Institutionen danken. Unseren Sponsoren, ohne die das Projekt nicht zu realisieren wäre, der Sparkasse Pforzheim-Calw, der Firma C. Hafner, dem Rotary Club Pforzheim-Schlossberg, La Biosthetik, Witzenmann, Klingel und Yellow Design. Unseren Kooperationspartnern der Fakultät für Gestaltung der Hochschule Pforzheim, insbesondere Christine Lüdecke, die auch nach New York regen Kontakt gehalten hat, dem Design Center Baden-Württemberg, die ebenfalls heute hier zu Gast sind. Vielen Dank dafür. Brooklyn Metalworks in New York, den Juroren Stefan Lippert, Amélie Gerdou und Sam Tudong, die das Projekt mit sehr großem Engagement begleitet haben. Herrn Oberbürgermeister Boch, sein Büro und dem Büro Kriechbaum für die Unterstützung bei der Visumsbeschaffung, Erik Kuhn und Annika Volz für die Hilfe beim Ausstellungsaufbau, Benedikt Adler für die Ausstellungskonzeption und die fotografische Begleitung, Matthias Lüben und Silvio Kalin, Reba Aziz, Erwin Wagner für den Film über die Stipendiaten. Allen Personen und Künstlerinnen, die Naama in New York unterstützt haben, Terobay, die die 3D-Animation für Marina umgesetzt hat, Janina Au für die hervorragende Betreuung der Stipendiaten. Sie hat den Kontakt und den inhaltlichen Austausch zu New York besonders intensiv gepflegt. Und ganz besonders Alexandra Vogt, Fabian Jäger und unsere FSJlerin Melissa Nowak, die sich mit einem enormen Zeitaufwand für die Realisierung dieses Stipendiums eingesetzt haben. And, of course, special thanks to our scholarship holders, Caio, Marina and Naama. Thank you for your enormous flexibility. We really enjoyed the exchange with you and we will miss our weekly Zoom meetings. Stefan, jetzt geht's an dich.
Vielen Dank, Almut. Guten Abend. Sehr geehrte Gäste, sehr geehrter Vertreter der Stadt Pforzheim, Vertreter und Vertreterinnen, liebe Almut, liebe Alexandra, dir Marina, dir Naama, dir Caio. Als Vertreter der diesjährigen Jury begrüße ich Sie alle ganz herzlich zu dieser Abschlusspräsentation. Es ist eine Abschlusspräsentation, wie wir sie uns vor 2 Jahren sicherlich nicht hätten vorstellen können. Es ist eine Abschlusspräsentation, die sich gegen unerwartet hartnäckige Widerstände entwickelt hat und vielleicht gerade, weil diese Situation so extrem ist, zu spannenden und berührenden Ergebnissen führt. Corona hat uns zum Teil schmerzhaft beigebracht, wie dünn die Kruste der Zuverlässigkeit in unserer scheinbar geordneten Welt ist. Gerade die Kreativwelt hat gravierende Veränderungen und Einschnitte erfahren. Und diese Einschnitte, die haben Lebensläufe und Karriereentwürfe verändert und Träume zerplatzen lassen, wie Seifenblasen. Corona hat auch die Lebensentwürfe der Jugend verändert und zu einer veränderten Wahrnehmung der Welt geführt. Es gab Einsicht zum Teil, es gab aber auch Fatalismus, Mitgefühl mit denen, die erkrankt sind. Es gab Zorn auf die Situation und ein Gefühl des Trotzdem, es muss einfach klappen. Alle diese widersprüchlichen Gefühle, die aufbrandeten wie Wellen in so einem sturmgeschüttelten Ozean, das war diese Zeit. Und sich als junger Mensch, als kreativer Kunstschaffende in dieser Welt zu entwickeln und zu behaupten, ist eine Leistung, die in ihrer Schwierigkeit gar nicht hoch genug gelobt werden kann. Und ich glaube, bereits diese Leistung, das ist einen ersten Applaus wert. Ganz tief gemeint, es ist so eine unglaublich schwere Zeit gewesen für alle Teilnehmer, dass es berührend ist, dass es alles geklappt hat. Und dann gibt es etwas wie das Emma, ein Bad, das wie geschaffen ist zum Trainieren für das Wechselbad der Gefühle in so einem stürmischen Ozean. Und in diesem Bad, das durch sein leeres Becken eigentlich wie der Bauch ist eines Schiffes, das in diesem Ozean schwimmt, da stehen als Kapitänin und Steuerfrau die Almut und die Alexandra auf der Brücke und halten Kurs. Und die senden Leuchtzeichen, Funken in die Welt und laden in diesem wirklich perfekten Sturm 3 junge Kreative ein, an Bord zu kommen und zu trainieren, wie sie mit dieser neuen Welt umgehen können. Und das Emma unter der Leitung von Almut Benkert ist ein wunderbares Beispiel, dass gerade die Kreativbranche die Kraft besitzt, das Unerwartete zu bewältigen und Schwierigkeiten in Chancen zu verwandeln. Ich finde, dass auch diese Leistung von Almut, Alexandra und dem ganzen Team des Emma einen zweiten Applaus wert ist. Das ist natürlich immer etwas schwierig hier, aber ich hoffe, Sie haben alle den Applaus gehört, wie er durch diese Halle geschwungen ist und wirklich tosend Beifall gespendet hat. Denn würden wir es live erleben, alle, die dabei sind, es wäre ein großes Fest, bin ich mir sicher. Und unsere 3 Stipendiaten, die haben sich nun aufgemacht, in dem Freiraum des Stipendiums einen Ausbruch aus dem Unbekannten, der Ungewissheit und der Unsicherheit zu wagen, indem sie für die Dauer des Stipendiums sich auf ihr stärkstes Werkzeug konzentrieren konnten, auf ihre Ideen, ihre Kreativität und ihre Imagination. Die Möglichkeit zur Entwicklung des eigenen Ausdrucks ist die zentrale Leistung des Emma-Stipendiums. Und schon in normalen Zeiten als Instrument des Übergangs von der geschützten Ausbildung in die Welt hinein, da ist es schon von großem Wert, ein solches Stipendium zu haben. Aber in diesem Jahr ist es mehr als nur bemerkenswert. Es ist ein Zeichen für die Kraft der Gestaltung. Gestalterische Arbeit ist ein wundervolles Werkzeug im Umgang mit Unbekannten. Im Gegensatz zu Verboten, Gesetzen, Regeln, Panzern, Waffen, Hass, Feindlichkeit und auch Gleichgültigkeit liegt in der Gestaltung das Verstehen drin, Verarbeiten und Verbinden. Das Verbinden mit den eigenen Gedanken und Gefühlen und dann ganz zentral das Erschaffen. Dieses Erschaffen verbindet das Unbekannte mit dem uns Bekannten in einer Weise, dass neue Grenzen einbezogen werden und dem Betrachter, dem Begleiter und Verwender das Verständnis und der Umgang mit dem zunächst bedrohlichen Unbekannten ermöglicht wird und unser Wirkungsraum nachhaltig erweitert wird. Die Gestalter selbst haben durch die Gestaltungsarbeit das große Glück, durch die eigene Arbeit sich ihrer selbst vergewissern zu können. Mit den eigenen Werken, also den Artefakten ihrer Arbeit, des Weges und den Artefakten der Entwicklung, da markieren sie den gedanklichen Weg in neue Gefilde. Und für die Gestalter und Gestalterinnen selbst ergibt sich in dieser Betrachtung des Werks ein Bild von sich selbst, eine Vergewisserung des Seins und eine Richtschnur für das Selbstverständnis. Und als Betrachter können wir natürlich jetzt anhand des Werkes auch einen Einblick gewinnen in die Welt der Gestalterinnen und des Gestalters selbst, uns inspirieren lassen zu eigenen Gedanken, Ideen, selber neue Artefakte wiederum erzeugen und auch die Ästhetik einfach genießen. Ich möchte Sie jetzt ganz herzlich einladen zur Betrachtung der Werke unserer Stipendiaten, die hier stehen als Zeugnis für die Kraft der Kreativität in unsicheren Zeiten, als Ausgangspunkt für Diskurs und Genuss und als Einblick in Gedankenwelten. Freuen Sie sich mit dem Team des Emma, mit der Jury, mit allen Beteiligten zusammen über das Gelingen dieses Unterfangens. Eine unfassbare Leistung auf die geglückte Fahrt in stürmischen Ozean und feiern Sie mit den Stipendiaten den Abschluss einer wertvollen Passage auf dem Weg in die Zukunft und einem weiteren Schritt in die Transformation und Selbstfindung. Ich bedanke mich ganz, ganz herzlich für Ihre Aufmerksamkeit. Ich bedanke mich dafür, dass ich Teil sein konnte in dieser Zeit im Emma an diesem tollen Projekt. Und ich wünsche Ihnen allen einen ganz spannenden und aufregenden Abend. Herzlich.
There you go. So I'm gonna show you guys a little bit of my work in the time that I have. And it's called The Boy Who Wanted to Pierce His Ears. As you could see a little bit in the video, my work really lately has been like looking into my past. This is a picture of me when I was about, I think I was 5 years old in this picture. And I grew up in this environment where my parents, they would always like introduce us to art, and we would like love Carnival. I'm from the city called Recife in Northeast Brazil, which we love Carnival and we like love to dress up and this kind of stuff. And as you can see, I was already a very flamboyant kid. I'm a queer guy, I'm a queer man, and I've been a queer man since I was born. So as growing up in Northeast Brazil was very interesting. I come from a very loving household, but even for my parents, I think it was very difficult to deal with a kid like me. And that's actually where my work begins. I've been looking a lot on my memories, and I just crossed this memory when I was, I guess, 8 or 9 years old, and I wanted to pierce my ears because that was so cool, you know, and I just wanted to dress up, you know, and then have the things attached to my body. And it wasn't so easy to convince my parents to do so. And that was kind of like hurtful for me. Of course, like in the end, like I could manage because I'm very easy to convince everybody of what I want, thankfully. But that actually made me, when I look back to that memory, I think that it's interesting that such a simple thing as a tiny earring attached to a body can start so much of a conversation, right? So that's what jewelry is for me. Jewelry is exactly this. It's this piece of an object that you put next to a body, and it starts a conversation and starts a speech. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to bring this conversation to my work. So I would like, in this exhibition, I would like to bring up this feeling where people will kind of feel like not adjusted, or like they finally found a heaven that they can be whoever they want, but also in a very vulnerable way. I'm always very interested in bringing out vulnerability in my work. And one of the places that I found first was the fairy tales, because that was a place where I could see a lot of narratives teaching me what to do and what not to do. And I could tell that I was never really part of it. So I was never the prince, neither the princess. I was something else. And I've been exploiting this word. So I will show you a little bit of the work that I've been doing lately. And I started with this frames. These are brooches made with copper, and I really wanted to use copper because that's such a hard material to work with, and and leaves a lot of marks, and it leaves a lot of dents, and that's very exciting for me, because I'm very interested in showing the scars of the piece, you know, like the memory of the piece and what it has to tell. And then for these images, I started to use nail polish to give it color, because nail polish is has such a feminine aura to it, and it kind of reminds me of when I was a kid playing up with my mother's makeup, and there's something very forbidden about it. You know, it was always a secret. It was also a way of disguising and again, dressing up for carnival. So I was actually also trying to give a twist to the story. So if you look at these pieces, they all address some sort of fairy tale. So this one, for example, I was thinking about the princess and the frog, but I wanted two princes because that would make more sense to my narrative. Also, this one is Rapunzel, but instead of a girl, I put a guy with a long beard. And these are two men. And then at some point, I started to look at the frames in my work, and I could tell that I was really like trying to tell a story in a frame, and I wanted this to be part of their own world. And it was really important to me to like fit stuff in boxes. So I started to think of isolation and how pandemic was rubbing off onto me, and how isolation is something that I'm very comfortable with, actually. And then this is a picture of me wearing all of the stuff together and then telling a lot of stories. And then I came up with this ring, which is actually inspired by Magritte. It's actually a painting by Magritte called The Castle of the Pyrenees. And it really spoke to me because it was this beautiful castle and building in a huge rock that was floating in the air, separate from the rest of the universe. So it's again talking about isolation, but in a very soothing, comfortable way. And then after that, I was looking into the Three Little Piggy stories, which tells about these three little piggies that they get everything they have, which can be straw or wood or bricks, to build a house that they can feel safe and completely away, apart from the danger. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But even if you look at this work, it's really not completely safe. You're still like out there, you know, you're still exposed to the world, and also in danger for just being who you are. But then, like, when I got here in Germany, I was introduced to the Peter book, which is a very controversial book. It's a folk tale that explains what kids should and should not do, but in a very, very harsh way. For example, I'm very interested in this one story where you can see that it's called the thumb sucker, and the idea is that the kid cannot suck their own thumb, otherwise crazy fairy guy is gonna come and cut your toes or your thumbs off. And I'm very attracted to especially like this illustration in the bottom where you can see this little dude, like he's cut off his, like he's not supposed to grow, he's not supposed to spread, and he has this really like passive look to it. It's sad, but it's very accepting, you know, and that's very interesting to me. I really relate to this little kid. And then there's this whole environment around him, which is a little box that he's fit in. Then the Stuhlpeter is this guy that is actually the first tale of the book, and it's actually the cover of the book. And what is it telling to you is that you should keep your hair tight and your fingernails cut. And when I look at it, and I look this creature that has this huge hair and this huge nails, and like the first thing that I look at was, this is a drag queen. This is a character that your parents tell that you should not hang up with. That's a kid that you should not be with. And that's when I did this piece. It's called Stuhlpeter. And this was one of the series of Haggerty dolls that I did. And that's another version of the Stuhlpeter. I did all of the back parts in silver. And then the Stuhlpeter made me think about the characters that I think they're misunderstood. So then I started thinking about for example, the bad wolf and the little Red Riding Hood. She actually, he dresses up as a woman at some point, and then later on he gets punished by it. And I decided to also relate to this misunderstood character, and I started doing more and more of these dolls. For example, this one I called Grandma. How big your eyes look, and then how big your mouth looks, and then how big your dick looks. And then this one is the last one of this bunch. It's called the Headless Mule, and it's the only Brazilian flavor that I brought to this exhibition. It's the Headless Mule in Brazil is a character. The tale says that when a woman has sex with a priest, she's punished by God by being turned into a headless mule with fire coming off of her head. And I think that's a very interesting story, because we are thinking of punishing a woman for having freedom in her sexuality and turning her into a beast. But for me, it's actually a beautiful creature that is just expressing her sexuality, really. And so that's I guess that's all of my work. Thank you very much, everyone. I invite you guys to see my little dollhouse in the exhibition space. And I just before I go, I just want to say thank you for the Emma team. Everybody has been so amazing to me, and you guys have been working hard so much to make this happen in the middle of a pandemic, and I'm just very, very thankful. Thank you, guys.
Just like my name is Marina, and I'm designer from Moscow. And actually, I want to start it with this scholarship begins with like separation of all of us, because Kai is in Lisbon, Naama is in New York, and I were in Moscow because of my troubles with visa. But we all have this magical connection in our works about childhood, about traumas, and about our possibilities, how to make art of some strange events and some difficulties. And also I want to start and show you my work. So in the Playground Hazard project, I wanted to work with a person's feeling from social pressure and the stages of growing up. When you're looking for your identity and feel that all swarms and roles in society are already prepared for you and already distributed. Objects that were built here in Emma actually were based on the principle of the large plush toys. I think the toy is the object, and airbags integrate with the human body. I think that through toy, a child are trying to understand the world, and also I think the toy is the thing when we trying to make a preparation for our adult life. And also all pieces are very connected with the body. And I wanted to make this connection with the human body, humanity, and these plush strange toys. Also one of the inspiration was the pillow for pregnant women that they're sleeping with them, and it makes them feel comfortable and safe. In those objects, I really wanted to show how hard it's to human to get all this luggage of anxiety, of social roles. And I wanted to show that in my pieces, you can feel your body different. And when you wear those objects, you can feel like the real load of those toys and the really heavy feelings about how can you be with this world, and how can you communicate with others. For me, it's very important to show how object integrated with the body and how people can really communicate with them. Because of course, one of the main idea of those objects was to build like a Lego constructor, big constructor set for adult, so they can play with them and feel safe with them. But in the same feeling, in the same way, they have this feeling of like that this is not right, and it is very difficult to find your own identity since your childhood, and feel that when you're growing up, you feel all those pressure from society, and you can really be lost. And I think also this is a project about how to find yourself in your life, and how to make all those heavy things really to play with it and how to get your best. For me, it always very interesting and very important to work in collaboration with other artists. By the way, in this project, I really wanted to create those creatures, those toys, but not toys that are in my object, but real toys, who are also the characters of my works. It can be like feminine sculpture or office worker or housewife. And of course, the installation, which is one of the integral part of the project. When I was working on that, I really wanted to create a safe space for play and self-awareness. But I really wanted so people to have this feeling of fluffy floors, fluffy forms, and can really find the solution how to play with it and how to find joy in those objects. But in a different way, you feel that something strange here, that all objects are really not very, not strong enough. And all stairs or rings can easily fall apart. This was my project, Playground 100. And before now we will start, I really wanted to say thank you to Emma's team, because it was like very amazing times, all those connections and amazing support from Emma team, from the city, and of course the people who works here and help me with all those different stages of the projects.
My name is Naama. I'm the third one, the one that is in New York. And I wanted to share some of the process I went through in the past 3 months with you, and show how this project came to life and solve the project. And in the end, also I would share the video. I called my project Matter to Dust. And I'm thinking about transformation of material a lot, and how materials symbolizes place and how we associate them with different environments and sites and time in life. And all of these are like the parameters I'm using in my work. As it was mentioned here, I couldn't come to Pforzheim, to my great sorrow, and had to stay in New York, but I was fortunate to find a studio here that allowed me to work. Also great opportunity to thank Brooklyn Metalworks. And I was working from there. And what happened is that during this, our meetings, actually this is the first slide from our first meeting ever. So I had the date here. I think it was Wednesday, April 7, 21. And it's kind of like the force of being far. It started me thinking, okay, I would show my environment. I would show what I'm seeing, and that would be like the first way of getting to know and sharing my perspectives. And this, out of this maybe restraint, the project grew and became what it is. So I will just show some images that I showed during the time and where my attention goes to, and things that later I used in the project or in the way that I thought. And during this, I want to read the text I wrote for the show. I know it's written there, but sometimes when someone says it, it sounds different. So the title is Matter to Dust. A terrain, a defined area with its own physical features, an arrangement of elements, dust and stones, plastic parts, random finds, a site of no specification. I keep seeing these environments when I walk around the streets of New York. Chaos and density, textures, substances, all blend together, parts, sites of familiarity and ambiguity all at once, shapes and affordances. My method of working is responsive. I observe, document, and collect. Searching for moments and patterns to draw from. Within this act of displacement, I'm taking things out of their context, out of their natural environment. I'm documenting spaces and I'm framing them from my perspective. By that, they are out of context. I'm taking parts and material, collecting them, breaking them down even smaller and reassembling them back in relationship to materials I've collected in other places. I use shapes that imply a utilitarian purpose and suggest occurrences or a ritual. The sandbox. The work is shown on a sandbox. If you're there, you can see it. And for me, the sandbox is a liminal environment, a poetic reference to play and to the sublime. Part by part, I'm building a site, a new terrain of multiple places and interaction all at once. So you've seen the impression of the city that I was interested in, and later what I do is I turn to, when I'm in the studio, I take materials and with the same mindset that I absorb when I look at those places, those pictures that I took, I start assembling parts together. And I put them on a piece of paper, I put them on my desktop, usually with some sort of color, and then I start making up connection between them. And this act reveals a lot of things that are hidden and that I wasn't aware of at first look, but then going deeper, I see more and more things. And it could be color, it could be form, texture a lot of the time, or sometime I would take texture of something like this sand from stones that I crushed, and I would think, what would be the most contradicting shape to show this texture in, or to show this material in? And I make the material and I make the shape and I use the material to make another layer of it. I like having options. I like making a lot of things, and one of my tactics is by arranging stuff and taking a picture of it and then rearranging and looking at it again, and seeing things. When I look at the picture again, it's removed from the context. So I start seeing, there's a connection between some shape, or there is a possibility to connect things. And then I start building those objects together, connecting them, using materials to disguise to transform them. Some of the objects I make are in response to how I think the material can be interacted with. So it can suggest toolness to that, or some sort of a functional use to it, but it will originate from the material. And this way of working, slowly allowing myself to maybe forget what something was and make something new out of it and add stuff to it, and like part by part create new objects, new surroundings that have some familiarity but some ambiguity in it. So at one point during the project, I was starting to take a look back and trying to understand how I'm going to do this. I'm in New York. I want to have a show with my fellow designers in Pforzheim, but I need to I'm here and I couldn't do exactly what I wanted. And I started imagining what would the end result look at a quite early stage for me, because I usually finish in the last minute. And I drew materials and shapes and colors, and I came up with this idea of a sandbox as a ground to show object on. I think that sand is like, it's a material that is, it's solid and fluid in the same time, which made a lot of sense with how I think of things, because how things transform, they are not one thing. They have a lot of facets, and if you look at them from one angle, they are one thing. And sand is very much like that. You can build something from it, but it's also very fragile and it changes. And a landscape that is sandy changes. It is also inherently how I look at things. I come from a desert country, and I think that it's a filter that I see things through sand and dust. But I'm also now, so I allow myself to get the impression of the place I'm working from, and the texture and the shapes of it. And this is a digital collage. And the left one with the propeller is like a propeller that I found that I coated in sand dust. So it's stones that I crushed and sifted over it to create a lot of layers, and then connected it to another thing. And it's on the background of a wall outside of my studio that was just painted when I saw it, and it had such a similar transformation to it as the propeller with the dust. It's unified, the color of it. And the right one is showing a brooch that is now in display in Pforzheim in EMA, that I took a picture over the sand. This boat this sailing boat brooch is a little bit of a poetic thought of how jewelry are an object that travels. So it moves there. It's a mobile object. And although I'm here right now, my objects are in Pforzheim. I packed everything and I sent it in a box that was 2 weeks late, but it arrived eventually. And so that's that. Oh. I kept looking at, once I sent the object, my work didn't stop. I keep looking at things. I keep being like very, very fascinated and attracted to those sites that I see in the city. And it's very normal, like in every big city, that people carry a lot of things. Me being one of them, carrying a lot of things that I find and that I like, taking pictures of those places to use later. The moments, looking of like where the body was, trying to understand through language, what is it that I'm so interested in there? Trying to understand through color, what are the things that maybe the common ground for the things that I'm looking at? How are things connected? What are the outline and the shape of things? And I took everything and I looked around, and in the studio where I'm working, there's an exhibition space, but also there is a rooftop. And I found that the rooftop would be a perfect place to maybe like intervene in, to show the work that I was planning to do in New York. And that's the rough sketch of it. Then the streets in New York are very generous. You can find everything. You just need to open your eyes. So I found a lot of furnitures outside in the street. I really like the fact that you're walking in the street and it's outside, and someone just took all their house out, and all of a sudden this outside environment became a mix between the inside of and the outside of the house, because all the domestic furnitures are there, but it's still the outside. And there is different context to it created. So I took that idea, and together with my partner, we started working on an installation and performance where she created this jacket and had attachment to it, and I worked on the installation and the objects. I decided I wanted to unify them like that wall that I saw, like that sand, to coat all of them in this beige plaster, kind of take them out of their context again, make all the object that would suggest they have some sort of function, They have some sort of purpose to them, but not clear what the purpose is. And together with artist movement, Aaron and Maya, we created a video that I'm going to show, we're going to see in the end. It was very interesting because the work was like working with 2 more people or 3 more people is something that teaches you a lot about your process and about what you care for, and also coming up with choreograph, or actually letting the artist, also the movement artist, move around the object, move around the jewelry and the scenery and see what they can find there. And these are some scenes in the video where I'm going to show it in the end, but for now, you can also see, or if someone is in Pforzheim, this is some images of the sandbox with all the objects I made that are arranged there in a way that can maybe look like play or maybe exploration of things. And this is a little bit what I want to achieve is through the object that I make, is to allow us to imagine and to play with things and to let things be much more than what they really are, the first thing we think they are, or our first perception of them, and to expand the possibilities of objects and bodies and spaces. I think also this, the fact that the way that the scholarship went, me being here is also, and also a little bit of my work is a good example of how art and how design and making can connect different ends together. Like the materials and the object are there, and I'm talking to you all and showing some other places, especially now when we can't move as freely as before. So that's maybe interesting, poetic again. And that's it from me. And thank you very much. Everyone thanked already the team and Emma, but I also want to thank them for being so patient and so creative in finding solutions. And special thanks to Janina, who was, who just made it happen. With Benedict, with help from everyone, but just made me, was there to talk to me and hear me. And it's very hard to do exhibition from a distance. So, but it was an amazing experience, and I'm super lucky and grateful.